All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Understanding AI webinar this afternoon, May 1st, 2024. We're so glad that you have joined us this afternoon. I'm Rachel Cobb. I work for the Center for Professional Excellence, and I will be your moderator for the webinar this afternoon. As I begin, let me just cover a couple of quick housekeeping reminders that are specific, some general and some specific to the way we are running the webinar this afternoon. Of course, please, thank you for those of you who are using your first and last name. If you haven't already, if you right-click on your tile and select rename and use your first and last name, we ask that you do that because we're going to pull the participant list afterwards, and it will help us ensure that we give you your PD credit to the correct individuals in PD for me. So that just helps us out, and it saves Zach a little time. Sometimes we have to go digging if it's a username. So thank you for using your first and last name. That will just ensure we can give you your PD credit much more speedily. Also, again, as usual with these webinars, if you're not presenting, we ask that you stay muted. We thank you for that, and that will provide just undivided attention for us to give to each of our presenters today. Just so you know, we have allotted time between each presenter for a little bit of Q&A. We are planning to use our Q&A box for your questions today. So if you find your toolbar, most likely it's going to be, it may be under the More option. Find your Q&A and open that up. You'll find a place for you to submit any questions that you have. And all of our presenters and other participants will be able to see those questions and comment on them. So if we're not able to catch them all during the Q&A time, our presenters will be able to follow up with those as we continue on. So please use the Q&A option for your questions. Tanya and I will be pulling the questions for the presenters from that Q&A box. We do have the chat open as well. So for any and all other interactions and reactions, please feel free to use that chat. If you'd like to send a private message to one of the presenters, that is an option for you as well. One of the reasons we have the chat box open. Just a note, we may not be able to get to every question. We will do our best. We do have several guest speakers today, so we want to be mindful of their time, and so we will try to get to every question. If we don't, we will definitely be making note of those and make sure that we get those to the presenters so that they can follow up with you at a later time if needed. We will be recording this, and so we'll have recordings of each of our presenters available at a later date. If you miss something or aren't able to stay with us the whole time today, that will be available in the coming week or so. And then just one final note, and we'll be done with housekeeping reminders. As you leave the meeting today, a survey will pop up, and we would ask that you take a moment to provide us with some feedback. We value your input about today's webinar. We welcome and appreciate anything that you would like to share with us. It is an anonymous survey unless you choose to share your information with us, and we would just appreciate any feedback that you have for us as we continue to work to provide professional development that is meaningful and relevant to you. All right, well, for today, you may have noticed we have 5 speakers lined up for you today on a variety of topics. It is going to be a very interesting afternoon. We will hear first from Dr. Larry Miller, and he will be speaking on navigating the promises and pitfalls of AI at GTC, equity, ethics, and safety. Next, Mimi Hume will be providing examples of AI plagiarism from across the curriculum and what to do about them, which is a very hot topic for those who are faculty and what we're seeing there. Then Michelle Rubino and Rachel Peterson from the library will be talking about GTC library tools for understanding AI. Rebecca Roth will be joining us to talk about Blackboard's newest edition, AI Generator for instructors. And it'll be very interested to see what Blackboard is doing there. And then last but certainly not least, George Abraham is joining us this afternoon and is going to be talking about improving personal productivity using consumer GenAI tools. So again, a great lineup of speakers for you today. And we're going to go ahead and just jump right in with our first speaker, Dr. Larry Miller, who's going to talk about AI here at GTC. So Dr. Miller, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Rachel, thanks so much. And thank you for moderating today. And thank you to CPE and Tanya for organizing this session. There is so much happening in this space right now. And we just kind of threw this out about 2 months ago saying we've got to get something on the calendar. We've got to get folks, we've got a lot of expertise in-house. A lot of things are happening nationally. We've got to get this some attention and college-wide airtime. So I appreciate all of your help. I will say for me personally, ChatGPT has really been a game changer professionally and helping me as a brainstorming partner. And I'm just kind of blown away by the capacity of that. That's what got me excited about it. I recently had the chance to ride in an AI-powered Waymo self-driving car in Arizona, and that truly felt like I was stepping into the future. We took a 13-minute ride. It happened to be a time when Uber was on strike for better wages, and I needed to get from A to B. Downloaded the app, and within 90 seconds, I was riding in a car. I got there on time very safely. So obviously, the ramifications for our political system, for wages, for technology, for safety, there's so many things I could talk about just in that little experience, but it was transformative. I also had a meeting yesterday with a thought leader in this space, an educator who runs a sort of a for-profit school nationally on software engineering, cyber, AI. His team stood up in 2 weeks an AI-powered chatbot that's a tutor and tech support for their students, and it's transformed their institution. They've been able to take off, providing services for students through a care team, which is just incredibly fast. And obviously, they've got a tech-savvy customer base, but it's just changing things quickly. He also talked about he had AI write a chemistry textbook for them. Chemistry faculty assessed it, felt it was spot on. So we've been talking about the hope and promise of OER, and it's like, wow, is AI already there to sort of change that game? And then where he pivoted and started to really get interesting to me was saying, well, could we have textbooks for one? So a truly personalized textbook where, for instance, Rachel, we learn all of your interest in strengths finders and mediation, let's say, and now you're taking an English class and all of your reading and your assignments are dialed into what you're interested in, your career goals, your personal passions, like that could be here. So that's just, yeah, I hadn't even thought that far into it, but anyway, all that stuff gets me excited. Obviously, I have concerns about where this is going to go from an academic integrity perspective, so I'll talk about that in a minute. So let me just advance my slide. I love this title, is really fancy and says everything I want to talk about. This is what I wrote. It's really AI at GTC, so I'm just cutting to the chase. I really only have 3 slides, including after this one with a video, so I'm going to jump right into them. The first one is, you might be asking yourself if you're a faculty or staff member, does Greenville Tech have an AI policy and a set of procedures to support that? The answer is that currently we do not. However, we have formed an AI task force in collaboration with Faculty Senate. And you can see the name of the folks, both faculty and staff, who have volunteered their time and energy to serve on that task force. The task force really, if there's a charge for it, and we do have a charter for that group, but really the charge is to both protect us and our students, from the dangers and risks around AI, and also at the same time ensure that we're leveraging the power of AI so that our students don't get left behind here at school and then in the marketplace. So that's sort of the approach I think that we're taking to everything here. So I really want to thank everyone who's involved in this work. They are forming now. Like I said, the charter has been written, and they'll review that charter at their first meeting. From the day they convene, they have 6 months to make those policy recommendations. So you can expect those to be delivered by the end of this calendar year, and certainly on our professional duty days and those first few days when we get back in January of 25. There'll be meetings talking about what those recommendations are and adopting those for the college, which should give the group some time to really come up with some good things. I also just want to share, for those really interested in how do you develop these policies and procedures, League for Innovation in the community college, that QR code is a really nice article. You can just snap that on your screen. And it talked about one institution's approach, and so something that you can learn more about from them. You might also be asking yourself, or certainly I'm asking myself this all the time, as Greenville Tech takes an increasing role nationally, right, as leaders in many spaces. You can see that in our Newsweek work. We're doing work with SME and Tooling U, one of 25 institutions, trying to increase the number of advanced manufacturing workers and students enrolled in those programs by 1,000 here at our institution every year, 3,000 over the next 3 years, for a total of 75,000 new workers nationally. Those are big projects Greenville Tech's involved in. Those are just two examples. You can think of many others. So we need to be involved also in the AI conversation, and fortunately we are. Many of you know about our Complete College America work, which has worked on transitional studies reform. It's worked on a strategic finance project around student success. It's working under the leadership of Michael Porter and Jill Walker on implementing guided pathways, which we're already in year 2 on. And we're about to announce an advising reform effort that will roll out next year. So all of those things are underway under the umbrella of Complete College America. Well, another thing that we're doing with Complete College America is the Council on Equitable AI. And you can see the esteemed group of institutions, both funders and national organizers, like the Aspen Institute and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the United Negro College Fund, as well as and I know our old logo is in there, but we joined before we rebranded, so we'll certainly get that up there. But it's just nice to see us up there with a lot of MSIs, HBCUs, and majority Pell serving institutions. We're a group that collectively serves or represents about 90% of students in America, but also at institutions that are historically under-resourced. And we want to make sure that we act collectively to put the interests of our students first. I'm going to show you a quick video on that, but I do want to draw your attention to one other QR code. I promise it's the last one, but you'll see it in the bottom right corner. That's Complete College America's website, where all of the reports on implementing AI in higher ed can be found. It's a great resource. I highly recommend bookmarking that. It continues to update, and we use that quite a bit. So let me play on that. I'm going to go to my video. So the council kicked off at Arizona State University just a few months ago, and you'll see in this video a lot of my colleagues speaking about the work that we're trying to do on that council. I do serve on that council. Thankfully, I wasn't interviewed for it, but you can see me in the background of some of the places we visited. So this video is just 3 minutes, so I'm going to play that now if everything works. Rachel, do you want me to click it, or is that okay? All right, here we go. Come on. Okay, maybe you need to click it, Rachel.
This AI Equity Council is really important because it brings together partners from across the country who are entering the conversations from different vantage points. We're really learning this together. This is new technology that is emerging, moment by moment, and it feels good to have a partnership where we know that if we have questions, we have folks that we can rely on, and also, add our voice to that conversation to make sure that communities like the ones throughout the state of New Mexico, tribal communities, traditional Hispano communities, borderlands communities are represented in these conversations. So I've been really honored to be a part of this visit to Arizona State University, to be able to participate and see what's going on with the Dreamscape Lab. It's really just been very exciting. And for me, equity is how do we partner with institutions like ASU to make sure that we're able to offer similar kinds of classes and experiences, not just here at the ASU campus, but throughout the Southwest.
I'm hoping to achieve a change around student support and engagement in the community with the faculty and staff. I believe that we can use it in order to remove the barriers, the biases that we all do have. This will help the graduation rate, this will help the enrollment rate, supporting the staff and supporting the students in a way that we can continue to move forward together. Without making that change, ultimately we'll fail.
So I always harken back to what happened with the internet in terms of rural communities getting left behind. And this is an opportunity for that not to happen again. So we don't have the missing millions that we're looking at right now where, minority serving institutions are under-resourced and, basically ignored. Well, we're here to say we're not going to be ignored in terms of AI. We need to be at the table, letting you know what we need.
Something that just stood out in our meeting yesterday was making information inescapable. And how do we make sure that students are aware of the many support services that are provided to them? When students start at the community college, they're inundated with information. How can we expect students to remember all that information? What if there was something that was accessible to them that did not judge them, that they can ask a question about a situation that they're experiencing, and they can get that information right away?
The council is an avenue for these entities to talk to the MSIs that are directly impacting the students. I mean, MSIs provide, smaller colleges and those kind of things provide education to like 90% of the students in this country. And you can't just leave them behind and say, we only want the top 10%, because all the workers, by and large, are going to come from those smaller institutions. So the council is a bridge for those places to get access, share things, partnerships, consortium groups, all those kind of things. So give us a call.
Thank you. I'm glad that tech worked, Rachel. It'd be embarrassing on an AI topic if it did not. So I'm just going to wrap up. So the council, we're proud of that work. And Rachel, if you can advance, I'm sorry, it's not doing that on my end. We will be, just one more slide.
AI Equity Council is really important because
we'll be meeting for a day on the Hill in June to advocate for our work and also have a chance to talk with, leaders from the Department of Ed on what our needs are, designing grants and opportunities for Greenville Technical College and our students. So more to come on that. Last question I've got is, has AI already shaped the future at Greenville Tech? That's a resounding yes. What you're looking at here is some renderings of our new Center for Workforce Development. This is the new welding facility, which if you've been to our current welding facilities, you can see this is already going to be a game changer for our students in our school. But we had the chance to go visit Liberty, and you'll see them in the bottom left corner. And it looks like nothing fancy, but right there on that gentleman's hand, that's Matt, our sales rep. He's got a pipe welder, an orbital welder that will fit and use AI technology to lay down a weld properly without a welder putting that down themselves. Now, that's really important. We talk about safety of AI. This is where AI is actually going to make your job, our graduates' job, safer. When you see that row of pipes in the field, the way it was described to me, and I'm not a welder, although I have had the chance to now laser weld and virtual weld on our trips. And yes, Giulietti did beat me on virtual welding. I'm just going to go on the record and let you know that my score was lower, but we will have a rematch soon. That typically in a plant, you might see 3 or 4 rows of pipes like that. And our graduates, welders, have to reach in around all those pipes, sometimes on a ladder, to try to lay down those orbital welds. And that's a lot of work on someone's body. It exposes you to fumes, your eyes. So if you're thinking about workplace safety, using a machine like this can increase your productivity by 4 to 5 times and make that job a lot safer, a job you want to be in for the long haul. And that means our students need to have skills like quality control, critical thinking, the technical skills to manage the technology that underlies AI more than they have to actually apply the welds in scenarios like this. So we're very excited about that. And then the last thing I'll say, we will have this equipment. Our students will learn how to use it. We'll invite the community to learn how to use it in the field. That'll help them generate greater profits, right? Be more efficient. So we want to be a leader for economic development as well as workforce development in that space. Last thing you'll see is just the working title. Many of you have heard of the Center for Industrial Cybersecurity and Artificial Intelligence. We hope to open that in 2027. We have folks that are working on the programming for that building right now. And we actually, thanks to Elizabeth Varga, submitted a $6 million grant for that project earlier in the week. So just lots of exciting things happening here, lots more to come. And I'll leave it there. I'm happy to answer 1 or 2 questions. I think I went over on time, even with only 4 slides. So my apologies, and thank you, Rachel.
Of course, thank you. We do have a few minutes for questions. So if you would like to open up that Q&A box, you may have to select the More option on your toolbar, and you can submit your questions there. We have a comment from Terrence in the chat who is very excited by the developments that are taking place as well. So we'll wait for just a moment, see if we have any questions come in for you, Dr. Miller. Thank you for all of that information. I think we're all going to be anxiously waiting to hear the recommendations and how those policies are going to be developing, and grateful that these individuals are giving their time and effort to helping us develop that. So, all right, we'll just wait another moment or so if you have a question before we move on. When we do move on, if you do have a question, you can still submit it there. Dr. Miller will be able to see that and comment on it. Or feel free to send him a private message as well if you would like. And Tanya, thank you. Tanya has shared the QR code that Dr. Miller shared in the chat for you to easily access as well.
Well, thank you, Tanya. And yeah, I'll remain on till my next meeting. So I'm here to answer any questions anyone has or hit me up on email. And again, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. We appreciate you taking the time to start us off today with a great first presentation. We are ready to move on to our second presenter of the afternoon, Mimi Hume, who is part of our wonderful English faculty here at GTC, is going to share a little bit about us, examples of AI plagiarism from across the curriculum. And I know she's been working with quite a few individuals, especially in the English department, on what to do about those examples of plagiarism. So Mimi, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so my name is Mimi Hume. A lot of you might know me already. I've been in the English department for 18 years. I've also taught in California and Arizona, and I consider myself an expert on student writing as far as at the community college level, at least. And that's, maybe I can do some things good, but that I'm pretty good at. So let's keep going. So what I'm really concerned with here, this is a different focus than some of the others, but just being in the trenches, I want to make sure that the academic excellence of Greenville Tech that we have a reputation for continues. I want the students to learn. I want to have them come away with the knowledge that they need to do their jobs, whether they're doctors or nurses or scientists or English teachers. So some of the things I worry about a little bit as far as some of the AI use that we've been seeing as far as when we've been looking at plagiarism, which we've seen a lot of in all across arts and sciences. One of the things is equitable education. Some students are technologically sophisticated, they know how to use AI, and they can afford to pay for resources, and they're willing to cheat. We've seen lots and lots of those. Then there are students who are not technologically savvy or socioeconomically secure, so that whether they're willing to cheat or not are adversely affected by the lack of access. And then those are the students who are good students, but would never use AI to pass it off as their own. They would use it, we can all use it. We all enjoy using it. I love playing with it. But if there's an assignment and they're supposed to write a paper and show their knowledge about some topic, and they just put it into ChatGPT, it comes back in less than, about 30 seconds, they can have a pretty okay essay. So those are the things I worry about. Okay, whoops, where's my thing? There it is. Okay, so I sent this out 3 weeks ago, I think, and I looked at it for a week and a half or something. So I collected some numbers about AI misuse and I sent it to arts and sciences full-time and part-time and faculty senate. And I looked at some numbers about AI misuse and anything anyone wanted to add or tell me about that. I mean, people tell me things all the time, but when you send out a group email, not very many people respond all the time because we have a lot of work. We're very, very busy. All right, so 20 people responded. There were 150 confirmed instances. And then there were some answers, like some of the math students have exactly the same solution and mistakes in their equations. Some people were like, it's hard to figure it out. Some said they had a whole bunch more in the summer. Some said it was hard to identify them. They say what they're doing is Grammarly, et cetera, et cetera. So I got a lot of answers. And the one thing I would like to say about looking at these answers, it's really not that hard to identify. Especially for our level of students. We have some excellent writers here, but not very many. And so I'll show you an example. I think that's what I'm doing next. Yeah, no. Okay, so this is some AI plagiarism tell. So we're looking at writing, and that's what I'm talking about, and showing knowledge of something that's been learned, and it's coming from a student's brain. That's what I want to see. Well, if I'm seeing an AI paper, which I've seen many now, a lot of times they have lots of parallel structure, which means we came, we fought, we conquered. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. Sometimes the essays are presented not in the format that they're supposed to be in, like whether it's MLA, APA, whatever it is, it's presented in a different kind of format. There's very few grammatical errors, almost none. In the summer of 23, all of a sudden I thought, wow, these students are, we didn't know. That's when we first formed the Faculty Senate AI committee. And we started looking at all these things and doing a lot of research and looking at what other schools are doing and all this other kind of stuff. So that's when we started noticing grammatically error-free writing. Especially one thing I want to point out, sentences that seem informative but are not specific. I've been talking to students about this recently. It's like they're circling what they're supposed to be talking about without giving the exact example of the problem, the story, the essay they read or whatever. They're not really giving any specificity there. Another thing, what you can actually, if you go to chat, put your own essay prompt in and have it write your essay, and then you keep that, that's useful for you later. Sometimes they have an undeveloped conclusion. The words in the sentences are put together in like a highly probable fashion. There's longer sentences and a lot of, let's see, well, like we can expect what's coming, but there's not very much specificity, and there's no outside sources sometimes, or there's sources that seem dropped in with no discussion or analysis, or made up sources. I asked a student, it was Monday, did you, who he had as an in-text citation, which said a source. And I said, who's this guy? And he said, he must be one of the sources. And then I said, well, it's not in your works cited list. And he said, oh, I don't know who it is. Well, that's worrisome. Okay, because you know, that's not from him, obviously. He doesn't know what he wrote at all. Okay, additional information not related to the writing prompt, word choice is elevated. That's one of the main things you can definitely tell. But let me show you an example. Whoops, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Forgot about that. All right, this is a girl, a student, and she wrote this in one of her discussion board posts. I'm gonna start in the middle because I don't want to read the whole thing, but just so I can show you her how she writes. Shows credibility. I am quite the binge watch movies and TV. I'm in complete agreement that diversity is greatly beneficial to the quality of these movies. Seeing different faces and places with different accents makes for a great movie. Adele is enough. It is more offensive to play the part of another race as opposed to stereotyping the races. Okay, got it. So moving on to her final, a later essay that she turned in, which it was entirely AI. Okay. Also, look at the middle. You can just listen to a little bit of the way it sounds and how it looks. Through these encounters, this is about, oh, did I say that? Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay, through these encounters, however, Carol explores complex themes of childhood identity and the nature of language and authority. The book's strength truly lies in its playful and inventive use of language. So if you see childhood identity and the nature of language and authority, that's what parallel structure is. Carol uses witty wordplay, clever puns, and nonsensical poems. Okay, great. Where are they? Show us those wordplay. Show us that clever pun. What do you even? So it's circles. It talks about it. It has lots of good points. It never gets into the actual meat of the thing. Also, additionally, Carol's book dives into physiological themes through apparent simple narratives that are easy to follow. So I said, okay, that doesn't sound like her, and then put it through to AI detectors. It was, and then talked to her, and she immediately caved. Which I'm not the type of person who's looking to catch people doing things. In fact, when I hear a siren, I'm like, are they coming for me now? Oh no. So, but I want them to learn. So that's how that ended up. Okay. I'm not going to read this, but this is from the biology department and is 100% AI detected. And this person is, I want my scientists, I want them to know about what water does rather than just to write this. There's lots of stuff here, but the student didn't write it. They just put the question in and they didn't learn it and they didn't read it. So they don't know it. That's the problem with it. Okay. And, a lot of people say, oh, we're looking at AI, we embrace it. In fact, there's different types though. I think it's fantastic. I love the whole AI thing. But if we are teaching a topic like how to write a nursing or a nursing essay, or how to do a nursing plan, or teaching medieval literature class, and we want to be focusing on the literature and them learning about that. So that's what we want to be focusing, not on ChatGPT, not on Grammarly, whatever. However, we need to show that we know it. So this is one of the most important things. We need to learn more about it. We need to show them students examples of it, show what appropriate uses and what inappropriate uses there are for AI. I don't remember what's next. Oh, okay. So prevention. This has two kinds of prevention. One is the prevention of, if they do something wrong later, we can prove that they did it wrong. Not that, that's the main focus of our lives, because we really don't want to do that if we don't have to. And the other is to ways to have chat or AI proof assignments, of which there are none. Just pointing that. It's really hard to have an AI proof. You can do almost anything with it. It's amazing. It'll do a lot. Okay. I have a sample writing assignment at the beginning of class in class. Then I can compare that to something later. For online students, they use their introductions. I think using proctored exams and face-to-face tests is obviously optimal. I already said that. So we could take one class, let's say, to look at an AI essay on the assignments topic, look at what ideas need to be cited, which are, because they are not common knowledge, and which need to show real examples of the point, so that we know that they know that we know, like I said, that there might be doing. Okay. Focus on the process of writing instead of just the answer. So rather than the completed product or answer, we're really focusing on, the processes and pieces of it and putting it together so that they're doing it. There's these AI misuse rubrics out there. I have several. They examine you can put them next to your assignment and they'll tell you how high the potential for AI misuse is in your assignment. For online, discussion board posts with several integrated parts that focus not on an essay answer, short answer, and face-to-face classes, obviously in-class discussion planning, pre-writing, and writing is optimal to avoid plagiarism, this kind. Okay, this is what we do in the English department right now. And every department is different. And of course, you have different ways. Teachers at our college have different ways of using AI in their classroom. Some classes are much more friendly to it, or because it's useful and helpful, and they're not using it as instead. Okay, so first I look at the students' writing and I think to myself, okay, that doesn't sound like Johnny. And so I put it through a couple of AI detectors, and then I look at that. Then I fill out, if I decide, yes, this is definitely it. AI, I fill out academic misconduct referral form ahead of time. And then I ask for a meeting with the student, and I ask someone to join the meeting with me, my department head or someone else. And I've also had the meetings by myself because I couldn't find anyone. It's fine with me. Tell them what I'm doing. Like, let's say I'm going to give them a 0 on the assignment. So, but if they don't respond to the assignment within a few days, I just put the AMRF in, send it to the dean without the student's signature, CC the student and the department head. And I can't do anything with them to help them or change anything if they're not going to speak to me. Sometimes they like to hide. And now this is how what it usually happens. I'm very kind of nice. So I talk to the students about, I don't try to make them feel bad. I say, I'm not mad at you or anything like that, but this is what this is. And you can't use this way. So I asked him some questions. I asked a student some questions the other day he wrote about a play. He wrote all this stuff about the play. I said, well, what is the play about though? And he's like, nodding his head. And I said, well, what is it about? The play itself, like this 5-page essay he wrote. He hadn't read the play. So, and it was clear. Then I went on to there, explained a lot of things about, what we were going to do about it and stuff like that. But that's the problem, Okay, so, and then if the meeting's Zoom, record the meeting. I have that recording. It's very interesting. Show the student the AMRF via the screen share, et cetera, scan it to the same thing, dean, and CC your department head and the student. Okay, so let me see, what's next? This is just an academic integrity pledge that we use in the English department. Tell them, okay, read the stuff, sign it, about it. The Grammarly's AI formatting and information capabilities in ChatGPT, if they are allowed. If they are not allowed, you may not use them. At least they know. And we're changing this in the what did we call it? The task? I think it's called. We're called task force now. And turning it into an academic integrity contract. I'm not sure the changes exactly, but this can be used if anyone wants it. Perfectly fine. I'm happy to give it to you. It's useful. Have a policy. We have written policies. We have, for our own classes. I have lots of them. We've worked on. So if anyone wants any of that, that's fine. This is just what's on the AMRF form. I think this is not the AMRF form. It's 2 pages. So all you have to do is put the student's name and number, student number, and then my name, and then what they supposedly did wrong. And then I put the sanctions, and then I put the evidence, and then they have all this other stuff they can do. So it doesn't take very long. It's time consuming to do this stuff because you don't want, students not to be learning. But on the other hand, it's not that hard here. All right, then I'm not even going to get into this. We know what this is. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it. This is the few AI ChatGPT detectors. Right now, I like Originality AI. I've used Winston. I've used some of these, not all of these, but some of them, many of them. I like Originality because it keeps all your scans. And if you go back and because teachers send me their papers a lot, and I put it through the scan, and then I send it back. The report takes about 1 minute, and then they can use it as their preponderance of evidence. So an AI detector is not definitive, of course, but if you have 2 that say, at least 2 that say this is plagiarized, or this is all AI, whatever it says, then you have that along with their writing sample, which doesn't look like their essay or whatever piece of writing they turned in that was AI, and any other information, including what they say. What they say is always best because they if they trust you or feel comfortable, they usually just give up. They just say, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard that quite a few times. So, okay. That's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna, oh, well, can you put my, or can I do it? I want to put my first slide back up. I guess I'll just so that if anybody would like the, sorry. Okay. If you need to put a paper through something for you, look at it myself, talk to me about any other, I have a lot of, documents that will support, hopefully, students not using AI in ways that are, we don't want them to use them. Let's just put it that way. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mimi, for sharing all of that. You see right now, Mimi has her contact information up there. That's great because I was going to ask you to share it in the chat otherwise for people to follow up. We did have some questions come through the Q&A. So first up, Mimi, Wes said he's heard some good things about GPT-0 for detecting AI plagiarism, and that was on your list. How effective is that one? I've only seen someone else use it, actually. I don't know how effective that one is. I only know the ones that I've really used, and the one I used for a long time was Winston, and I don't think it's as effective anymore. So I'm not positive about that. And is it paid or is it not paid? I can't remember either. But I'm not sure if he does. So I'm sorry, don't have the answer to that particular question. In terms of how effective it is, but
yeah, exactly.
The one you mentioned earlier, you found has become less effective.
Winston, I think, is a little less effective. Maybe other people think something different, but I think Originality is the best one that I've seen so far. Originality AI. Great. But it is paid.
Yeah, and if you have had experience, those of you who are joining us today, and you want to put in the chat any experience you've had to share with others, please feel free to do that. We have a couple of other questions. You may have covered this in your talk a little bit already, but we have a question. What do you recommend specifically that our writing tutors should do when they know that a student has used AI? What's your recommendation for the protocol that tutors should specifically follow?
I think it's the same. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, the first thing I would do if I were tutored is talk to the student. Say, so what do you mean when you say, I don't know, whatever it is in their paper, and say, what do you mean? Where is this you? I say, is this you? Did you say this? And I say, what do you mean by it? And talk to and then same thing that I said before. Like you can say, look, you can't, you could report it. You can tell the student you're not going to go over the paper with them. I don't know how much the tutors are seeing this. I think they're probably seeing it a lot, but I feel like most of the people who are doing this aren't going to the tutors, really, because they don't want to be caught 2 times, right? Like they might be caught at the end, and I could be wrong. I'd love to hear more from the tutors about it.
Great.
And you can always send it. If your tutor or whoever said that, you can always send anything to me and just ask me about it or just talk to me about it. I'll talk to the student, any student you want. Perfectly fine with me.
That's wonderful. That's an open invitation to the tutors from Mimi to communicate and collaborate.
Yes.
Thank you, Mimi. We had a couple other questions here. George did comment on this one. Is AI able to process images attached to questions? George commented that paid versions of most of the consumer AI tools can process images very well. Did you have anything to add to that, Mimi?
About images? No, I don't have anything to add to that. That I know that's true, the paid versions, yes. But I don't know. I mean, I'm always looking at text and writing because that's my thing, but I'm sure that's true. And I did have a complaint 2 days ago that someone said, can you put she couldn't put her PowerPoint through, and she was sure that the whole thing, all the writing and all the images were AI generated, and she figured that out. I was going to figure it out for her, but then she ended up saying, no, she's getting a D anyway because she didn't do the assignment. And wasn't really answering it, wasn't really answering the questions and the assignment or something.
All right, and one final question for you, Mimi. Do any of the detectors provide evidence that they don't discriminate against ESL or non-neurotypical students? Or do they all just say that it's up to you to use them responsibly and they take no responsibility for their use?
Are you talking about the AI detectors? Is the person talking, did she say detectors?
Yes. Do any of the detectors provide evidence that they don't discriminate against ESL
No.
or non-neurotypical?
I don't know. Maybe George knows if they provide evidence for it. I don't know if they provide evidence, but one thing I like about Originality is there's a 24-hour chat. You can just, if you have a question and you think there's any question you want to talk to them about the thing, you can definitely just what's happening. But you can definitely talk to them right then. So that's helpful. You could ask them that question. I will ask them that question, in fact. But
Just
here's
to
the
add to
thing.
that, they do hand wave a lot, and
Yeah.
so that the responsibility is up to you.
Yeah. So the but I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say now. Never mind. Anything else?
That's all for the Q&A box. There are some comments in the chat, Mimi, so I might direct you that way to take a look there and see if there's anything else that I think there's a couple of comments, perhaps a question that was put in the chat as well. Thank you so much, Mimi. It's clear that you and the English department are really working hard at this, and appreciate that you're open to sharing all of the resources and techniques, et cetera, that you're finding useful and helpful. So again, if you want to reach out to Mimi, she had her information up here. You can find her in Outlook as well, Mimi Hume, and would love to continue that conversation. Just a note as we move on to our next guests that as we answer the questions, some of them that you're putting in the Q&A, we're answering live. If Tanya responded to one and typed an answer, you will be able to find those answered questions under the Answered tab in the Q&A. So they will shift to a new area in the Q&A as well. All right, thank you so much, Mimi. And we are ready to move on to our third presentation this afternoon. And that comes from Michelle Rubino and Rachel Peterson, both of our wonderful GTC library, who are here to tell us more about GTC library tools for understanding AI. So Rachel and Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will stop my screen share so that you can share with us.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Go ahead and share the screen and get started. So what we are doing this afternoon is we are just going to briefly review some of the resources that are available on our ChatGPT and AI research guide. And I am going to pop the link to this guide into the chat so everyone can have it. Okay. So this guide was built in collaboration between your librarians and the Faculty Senate Subcommittee, and then it was augmented with content from a guide created by our consortium, Pascal. For anyone who has not used a research guide, you navigate through them using the tabs over on the left. And just on this first page, I'd like everyone to notice in the resources box at the bottom, there are links to GTC-specific resources, including that academic misconduct referral form that Mimi just spoke about. So I will turn it over to Rachel to talk about prompt engineering.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about prompt engineering. So we are going to, again, go to the menu on the left, go down to AI and teaching, scroll down a little, and you will see writing quality prompts. Again, prompt engineering, that's what that is, writing the prompts and creating the prompts you're going to put into the AI tool that you are using for your paper and or project. So prompt engineering is about creating effective queries or instructions that steer your specific tool's results for the output that best matches what you were looking for. Some practical strategies for using these prompts. You want to make sure that you're being clear and being specific about your queries. You want to use examples and context so the tool knows where to go with this. Experiment with length. So longer, shorter, make sure that you are using it correctly so you can get the best results. Make sure that you're putting in constraints and guidelines. If you need a specific amount of words in an essay, make sure that you're putting those guidelines in. Iterate and refine. This is like proofreading your paper. So proofread your prompts, make sure that you are getting what you need from your tool, and take some time to understand the model that you are using. So not only you understand it, but you can explain to your students as well what they are going to be using and how to use it. Below that, you can see some example prompts. Again, we want to be as specific as we can. So as opposed to saying something like, tell me about renewable energy, you can use a prompt like, provide a concise overview of the economic and environmental benefits of renewable energy, as opposed to traditional energy sources. You see some creative writing prompt requests, as well as historical analysis requests. At the bottom in this gray section, you see the attribution and acknowledgement of the use of AI. And I will go over that a little bit more when we talk about citation for AI tools. But I am going to go ahead and give it back to Michelle to talk a little bit about Credo tutorials.
All right, so I will scroll back to the top. So to help teach students how to use AI ethically in the classroom and in the workforce, you can use these tools in the teaching resources from GTC Libraries box. I'll talk about that AI literacy link in just a moment, but please notice there is a link to our embeddable tutorials below this. So you may have heard us talk about our Credo tutorials before. They can be embedded into Blackboard. Directions for doing so are in this link down at the bottom. But what they have done is they have now included relevant discussion about how AI relates to the topics in these tutorials. If we look at this AI literacy link, this will lead to discussion prompts and also active learning suggestions. Some of these, as I said, are just discussion. Others are actual activities that ask students to use AI and kind of experiment with it. So you can talk about the results. So when designing these activities wherein students use AI, we must first verify institutional use parameters. I understand those are still, under construction. And then remind students of the privacy and confidentiality concerns. For example, anything they input becomes a learning tool for the AI, and then prepare to offer an alternative to students who don't want to use AI for those reasons, or students who may not have an account set up already. One example of a free-to-use account not required tool is Perplexity AI, which is linked on that AI and teaching page. And then just keep in mind that when you talk about those privacy and confidentiality concerns, that can lead to a greater conversation about other issues pertaining to AI. And if you look here, there is a whole page of information with different discussion prompts about how to discuss AI with students. And of course, we can use this with colleagues. One activity I did want to briefly describe was this AI writing and independent writing comparison activity. So what you do is you have a writing prompt that requires the author to express a personal opinion and provide examples from personal experiences. This is given to both students and fed into AI. And then you have the students do a self-evaluation. What did they do better than AI or not? After the self-evaluation, you can, as Rachel just spoke about, revise your prompt, feed it back into AI, and then analyze how that went. Did your revision help or did it not? You can also do a peer review. So you can collect all of the compositions that have been created and then pass them out to other students and have the students grade them according to a rubric. It can be very simplistic. And then talk about why they graded as such and who can tell whether the composition they graded was AI or student created. And then finally, what you could do if you wanted to is you could personally collect some of the AI created compositions, grade them according to your rubric, and then have a discussion with students about why they were graded as such. Another activity is this grid activity suggestion, and I'm going to bring that up because there is a bit of a visual. And this is something that you can use with both students and as a PD with your department, division, school, whomever. So you create a grid or axis, and here in the example, they use acceptability and use parameters, but you could do pros and cons, time savings and effectiveness, or others. And acceptability can range from 0 tolerance all the way to acceptable or allowed. And then the use parameters can range from use only if a citation is provided to use is entirely not allowed. So what you do is you have your students or your attendees plot activities on this grid and then discuss. And this can lead to a class contract, a department contract, or even eventually to policies. And it's very helpful because they can see all of these activities plotted out and it shows the spectrum. So it's helpful for visual learners. So I will go back to our guide. And speaking of policy, if we click on AI and academic integrity, up at the top, there is a blanket statement for addressing the use of AI. And if we scroll a little bit further down, this has been adapted for how use is acceptable or not. 0 use to encouraged use to some use of AI. Also over on the left, we have a link to the SCTCS student code. And then if we scroll down under these additional resources, down at the bottom, we actually have a link to GPT-0. We will need to add in some of those other detection systems that you spoke about, Mimi, but just keep in mind that no detection system is infallible and their effectiveness will change as new versions of chatbots become available. So I'll turn it back over to Rachel to talk about citations.
All right. So oftentimes this semester I have gotten questions from faculty about how, if my students are going to use AI, how do I cite that? So if we go ahead and scroll up, we go to the 4th tab here, Citing AI. We have a bunch of information on how to do that. So acknowledging the use of AI tools is just as important as doing citation when you are writing a paper just with your own brain. It is crucial for transparency and integrity. It is crucial for making sure your students are using those critical thinking skills and using these tools responsibly. So incorporating AI tools into assignments means that you must use clear acknowledgement that you have used AI in your paper, just like you would any other source. So here is how we acknowledge that just in a list. But I want to draw your attention to the examples because we do have these available for everyone to look at and use. So formatting your acknowledgement here, this is a pre-formatted example of what an AI acknowledgement could look like. And below we have different types of the uses, from generated text use to generated image use. What happens if you, again, revise that prompt? You must cite both times. So this is for the revised text. And if you or your student decides to use no AI at all, it is also good to acknowledge that there was no tool used for that purpose in this project or paper. Below that, you will see other references and further resources for your use in using yourself or teaching your students about using AI. And that is what I have. So thank you for listening to my portion of the presentation, and I'm going to throw it back to Michelle.
Right. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having us on this webinar. Please be on the lookout for upcoming workshops for both students and faculty, as well as updates on the renovation of our spaces and the revision of our services. So hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Rachel. It is exciting to just see all the work that individuals across the college are doing in order to provide resources and ideas for this ever expanding topic. Wonderful to see all of the work that you all have put in the library to compile resources available for us. Thank you for walking us through those. And we'll check and see. We have a few moments for questions, so we'll take a look and see if we have any questions for the two of you coming in. I'll pause for a moment. And you can, if you have a question for Michelle and Rachel, you can drop that in the Q&A box. Over in our chat, we've had some great sharing going on of ideas and resources. Thank you to those of you who are sharing things that you found helpful. That's one of the reasons we wanted to make sure we had both options for you today, so that we can be a community that is sharing what we're learning and what we're finding helpful. Now, I haven't seen any questions come in for Michelle and Rachel, so if we do, we will filter them your way as we continue on this afternoon to our next presenter who has joined us, and that is Rebecca Roth. Rebecca Roth is part of our Curriculum and Instructional Support Center here at GTC. And she has come to tell us about Blackboard's newest edition, AI Generator for Instructors. So welcome to the webinar with us this afternoon, Rebecca. I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing so that you can share your screen, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Let me get sharing here. All right. Thank you again for having me and for inviting CISC to participate in this panel, and we're very excited. So Blackboard and Anthology have been working very diligently to make sure that they are on remaining relevant with all of the changes that come along with the AI generator that generator options that we've talked about so far, that we've seen about. And so Blackboard now has a way for instructors, for faculty to use the AI generator to create content for themselves or for these course shells. So what I have here is a bit of a demonstration. I have a sample course that I created solely using the AI generator in Blackboard. I did input the assistance of ChatGPT just to create a little bit of content for this particular sample course, because it is not a sample based on my own expertise. So this is an introduction to MRI. So I used those terms to generate content. So please note my disclaimer here of at no point am I saying that the content you see is correct with MRI information, but it's for demonstration purposes only. So the first thing that I did was I started with a clean shell. So like a blank shell, when you go into your Blackboard course and there is nothing there. And I'm going to go ahead and show you, even without a clean shell, what I did first. So the AI generator, you can tell it to build modules for you. And so it will auto-generate modules based on the parameters that you give. So in this case, the only thing with a basic generator, it is only kind of guessing based on the name of my course. So it pulls this information in, or I can give it topics to bring in. So I can say, just focus on magnetic resonance, imaging, and technology. So, and then I can tell it to regenerate, and it will come up with some new modules to propose that I insert those into my course. It's going to take a minute. I will point out that this AI generator, at any point that you use the AI generator in Blackboard, you do have to actively go in and select what you want to include in your course. And when we get farther into the questions and the question prompts that are available, that's something that I really want everyone to realize, that Blackboard is not allowing you to just say, hey, add it all in, without any vetting process by the instructor. So it does have to be vetted by the instructor. At this point, I'm not going to choose to add these two to the course just because I have some content pre-built for you. But before I do that, before I go, if you have content already built in several of the AI generator areas, you can choose to select content that is already in existence there. So you can choose from there to start bringing in that content. And you can also change your level of complexity and number. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. All right, so discard and close. So for topic 1 here, I have, again, generated content using, again, solely AI generated content. As I said before, I needed something to build from. So I did use ChatGPT to I told it, hey, write 1,000 words on, and develop several modules on an introduction to MRI course. And so this is ChatGPT generated. But the reason I brought this in was if you have this content that you've added into Blackboard into an Ultra document, which is what I've added here, if you go to the bottom of the screen, you'll notice there is an auto-generate question bank. So by clicking that, I go back into a generator, and this particular generator is going to come up with questions solely based on the content that was in that particular document. So this is really great for creating. You can go as high stakes as a test. You can create a quiz, or even just something as like a knowledge check, where you kind of use this to test the student's knowledge on whether or not they've read that content. Just like in the modules, you can change that complexity level. You can increase the number of questions. Notice nothing changes. I do have to tell it to generate anytime I make that change. I can also say, if it says inspire me, it will generate different types of questions. But if it's a knowledge check, I may only want multiple choice questions. So then I click generate. It does some thinking, and after that, I want to make sure that, again, that I am looking at the questions and I'm choosing the questions. And also, even if I choose a question, when I go in to add that question and to create that assignment, I have the ability to edit those questions. So if there's just 1 or 2 things that are a little bit off because it is AI generated, but I know that I can manipulate that to be an accurate, good question, then I have that ability to do that. And so I've pre-built some of these for you. So let me click out of here. So the types of assignments that are available for us to build with this, we can use a generator to create a discussion board. And this is actually really great because the generator is designed to create open-ended questions that are following the advice of like what we just saw with Michelle and Rachel of creating what Blackboard is referring to as authentic assessment. So prompts that are designed to dissuade a student from using an AI generator to create their answers. So we're almost kind of using it against that. The joke was, I even said at the very beginning was like, well, why don't we ask AI how to prevent AI or AI usage, over usage, I guess you could say. So, and just like before, you can read this, you can choose which topic to use, or you can say, hey, you know what? It really isn't getting it. So this was great to get me brainstorming, but I'm going to go ahead and write my topic myself. That is absolutely fine and encouraged. Here is a test that I created using the question banks that I built with the document that I had. So this can give you an idea. I just did 3 questions. Again, you can create the pools that are in the background and then pull that information into a test that you build. You can create, here's a knowledge check that I mentioned. They also have journal prompts that will auto-generate. So let me show you really quickly. I know we're kind of, going off on time. So here's my topic 2 module. So I have the, again, the essay that I've brought in that I fully admit that I did not write. I can tell it to generate my question bank. But one thing I want to do here is create an assignment. So I just want to show you guys how this works. So the journals and discussions, again, these are the assignments that are the lower stakes. They tend to be lower stakes assignments. And so this is where I would recommend you start playing around with these, just to kind of see how it works, how you like it. Clearly, you're welcome to add in test questions, but I know that we are all kind of nervous around it. And so to get used to it and to kind of see, hey, is it giving me quality content or not? This is a great place to start. So if I create a new discussion in my course, I can go in and say auto-generate the discussion. And this is also great for new instructors who may be coming in from the field and they are, they don't have that long history of educational training. And they're like, I don't really know. I know I've got to create these assignments, but I don't really know how to write them. Like I know what I want them to do, but I don't know how to say it. That's not my strength. So that's really what I'm most excited about it with this, is it really helps the instructors who are coming from that side, and it gives them that brainstorming ability. So I'm just going to guess that this is a journal, a discussion prompt that I would like. And so I just say add, and then this is the page where I can come in and I can edit that prompt accordingly. I may say, okay, this wording is not correct, so I need to change that wording a little bit. Then I would say save. And just like any other discussion, you can make any changes from there. You can make it graded, not graded, all of that. So another thing that I want to point out that is excellent for especially new instructors, new faculty who are less familiar with writing some of the, the educational prompts, or even, just some of the content generating. So you can use this AI generator, not just to build tests, questions, quizzes, knowledge checks, discussions, journals, modules, the list goes on. You can use it to create a rubric. So when we go into our gradebook, and you can create this kind of rubric from the gradebook or from one of those, like a very specific item within the course. So you build it the same way, or you go into that different ways, but it goes into the same generator. So if I want to make, just a generic rubric, when I go into my overall grade settings and I scroll down, previously we would have seen just create a new rubric, and now I can tell it to generate my rubric. I go in, same steps and processes. I would say, okay, for this particular rubric, again, it's about the introduction to, let's see if I can just do MRI. And I give it that time. And again, for someone who may have never written a rubric in their lives, this is a great starting point. It's a great place to brainstorm, how to organize that rubric, what to break down, what is the difference between, a 75 and a 50, or, needs improvement but is acceptable, different areas. And this can be, you could, just like anything else, you could increase, you can make it very, very big, or you can make it pretty small, whatever it is you would need, that you're looking for. I did make it very small because what I wanted to see was if it gave like a succeed, unsucceed. And when I made it very like 2 by 2, I didn't like it. It didn't give me the, what was missing area. So you just kind of have to play to see what you're looking for. Now, this rubric I created from the overall grades area, so I would have to type in my description what I'm looking for this particular rubric. But if I go back to my journal that I've already created, so I'm going back to topic 1 here, I'm going into this MRI journal from module 1. And with this assignment, I can create a rubric specifically about this. So I would say use grading rubric, generate, okay, and then it would generate that rubric accordingly. So sometimes it takes time, and I'm a fast clicker, so sometimes I get ahead of Blackboard. But and again, I can I can change the complexity. I can add columns and rows if I don't like it. I can edit. If I were to click continue, I can go in and I can make changes to this, or I can, I can change my percentages, I can edit any of that. So it's a really great tool in my mind, in my opinion. But keeping in mind a lot of the same things that we've heard today, which are to, be aware that it's not going to create perfect content by any means. But one of the challenges with this tool is that no matter which direction we're going with it, we always feel like we're a few steps behind. At least that's how I feel. And so I like having this tool here to use and to learn and to try to keep up with that. So, so this is turned on for all faculty in all of your classes. You may have seen it already. You may have played with it already. If you're enjoying it and you're using it, or you hear of a fellow faculty member who is also using it and has anything to say about it, like even if it's, hey, this is not working very well, please let us know. We have a team group that it's a team channel in Microsoft Teams that we've put together, and we just kind of want to use it as a sounding board, just as, like just a focus group of those who are using this. And we would love to get feedback on, on the whole gamut. We do want to hear if it's absolutely a waste of your time. We want to hear if it's helping you tremendously. We want to hear if it's, hey, it's good to use, but I don't really need it that much. So we definitely want some feedback. Blackboard is ever growing with this. So in some areas, you'll be able to see where you're generating content, and it will say like where you can choose a specific content item. If you're in one of those broader areas of building. So I think I showed you guys that with the intro for the module. So they're adding that in, they're growing it. Every month they're adding updates to this particular area of the platform. So, so yeah, we're very excited about it. And I see that there are a few questions, so I'm going to switch over to that. Let's see. Okay. All right, we're there. Oh, okay, I think George just made a comment and tagged me in it. Okay. Are there any features coming to Blackboard in terms of AI detection? Wes, that's a great question. And the AI generator is a product of Blackboard looking into that specific task. And so Anthology, they published a white paper on it. They did a lot of research, and they basically said at no point are we going to be able to create something that can keep up with AI detection. It is always going to be not one step, not 3 steps, but like 10 steps ahead. And so instead, they're trying to use this generator to create quality content and quality prompts and assignments and assessments that are designed to dissuade the student from using it. So at this time, no, there is not a built-in AI detector coming. For the textbook question, Rama, so will the Blackboard generator reference the textbook? Can it be prompted to? So with the way this works is if you saw the description panel when I go in to create something. So in that area, if you type something in here, just some generic terms for your topic, it will pull what it can. Or and this is another place where you can select course items. If you have that content built into your Ultra shell, it can pull from that content. However, if your book, I assume that your book, it's protected behind a publisher wall and an authentication wall, so it is not going to jump through that wall for you. So just keep that in mind. So it may, depending on your topic, it may be limited with what it can pull in, especially with how detailed, how specific your particular course and textbook goes in. Let's see. Yes, the publishers are, oh, sorry, this is a comment that came in. Publishers are making the materials and ideally they're putting them online, but they are still protected by an authentication wall. that the detector isn't going to, Blackboard can't push that generator out into the LTI third party at this point. That would be really cool if they could, but. All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will stop sharing and thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just send them my way.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing all about this wonderful new tool that's coming. It looks very exciting. I was sitting here thinking, I really want to jump into my playground course and just play around with that now and see what it comes up with. But again, appreciate that you emphasized the need for us to go behind and vet the information that it is generating and making sure that it is accurate to not only the subject matter, but what we're trying to teach and what we want them to know. So thank you for that. And of course, you all know that you can reach out to Rebecca and the wonderful team over there in CISC for any of your questions, concerns, to continue that conversation. And of course, if you want to join that team they have started as kind of that group to focus and get feedback and talk about what the experience is, definitely reach out to Rebecca for that. Couple great comments in the chat, Rebecca, from George. It's a great presentation for new faculty. This might be a great help. Some thank yous that it was great and a great new tool. So thank you, Rebecca, for sharing that with us this afternoon. All right. Well, we have made it to our final presenter of the afternoon. We are happy that we have George Abraham here. He's going to share improving personal productivity using consumer GenAI tools. And George, we are very excited to hear what you have planned for us. So I'm going to stop my sharing so that you can share and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rachel. So I do have allergies, so I might cough a couple of times in the middle. I'm going to share two screens. One is a PowerPoint, and the other one is a browser in which I will run a bunch of demonstrations. That's what here, let's go with this one. And I've flogged this version of this presentation about 100 times around South Carolina, so I do apologize if you hear my poor jokes again. But what we've kind of witnessed, at least in the last 15 months now, is just an explosion of tools in this space. And some of the tools are extremely narrow. This is what I'm going to do as far as a tool goes, maybe generate images, maybe generate video, and that's all. But then there are some which are very general purpose. They'll pretty much do as far as a mode goes of answering you. So if you ask it to generate a text, it'll do that. If you ask it to generate a slideshow, it'll do that. So it's kind of varied how the various tools are marketed to us. So what I'm going to talk about today, basically these kind of generative AI tools that we can use in our own professional or personal life to increase our productivity. And just like Dr. Miller mentioned before, I've used these considerably. And sorry, Mimi, I haven't really cited in a lot of the things that I've used that I've actually used this. But I'll give you some examples of how I've used them, even in our interactions, OIT's interactions with you around the college. Here's a categorization of these tools, and it's a fairly dense slide. Let me just start at the top there. Your general purpose tools are the top three, and you've heard about these kind of ad nauseum from the media over the last 15 months. ChatGPT is the granddaddy of them all, came out first and kind of caught the public's imagination. The company OpenAI that's behind it has a bunch of other tools, and they consistently bring out pretty much, I would say, best-in-class tools for text and audio, video, you name it, even code. Gemini is Google's latest brand name for Bard, which died an ignominious death and now has been resurrected as this new name. I would say that Gemini is quite good, especially because Google's really worked into it the ability to search the World Wide Web and give you good answers based on that. Claude is made by a few folks that jumped out of OpenAI because they were too scared about what ChatGPT is doing as far as safety of AI is concerned. And so they built this tool called Claude. They call it a safe AI. And it's very good. The latest iteration of Claude is called Claude 3. And it does really good things, especially around data and especially around text pattern matching. Tons of tools, by the way, that do images. I've just listed a few of them here. You might be using other ones in your personal life, like Leonardo or whatever. And feel free to put those in the chat for other folks to fool around with as well, especially if they're free, because by God, it's tiring paying yet another $20 bill to yet another tool. So if there are any free tools out there, feel free to put them there. For code, the latest one that has come out, and all of these do code well in some ways or the other, but the latest tool that came out recently is this one called Devin. And that I think came out about a month or so ago. And the reviews have been fantastic. This thing apparently is almost a junior software developer. And if you use it as an assistant, you and and Devin together can be a really good coder. Really, really cool. Speech and audio, here are some of the ones that are out there. The newest ones on the market are called Suno and Udio. Literally put in a prompt that says, hey, I want to listen to, I don't know, Korn in the style of Willie Nelson. And it will put out a tune that sounds like Korn lyrics sung by Willie Nelson. And fantastic, and it'll put together a playlist around it. That's the weirdest part, with the appropriate lyrics and all that. All the IP considerations around this are still up for grabs. I expect the courts are going to be fairly busy over the rest of the year. And yeah, I'll try and put in, I actually have a link to Udio here, and I can play that over and see how it sounds. Video, the latest entrant to that is a tool called Sora from OpenAI. And if you've been paying any attention to the interwebs, some of this stuff that Sora has put out is magnificent. A simple prompt like, show me a lady walking in the streets of Tokyo. And it takes that one prompt and makes a 1-minute video that you would be hard pressed to say is fake. And this is, this lady doesn't exist anywhere in the world. She was just made up by the AI on the spot. And the physics of it, the layering of the hair, the clothes, all of that looks absolutely spot on. Of course, once you start looking a little bit closer, you find out she's got 6 fingers instead of 5, stuff like that. But that's all AI. All of them do that. And then there are some specific ones like Tome does slide decks. That last one, Replica, that's an AI that's used for companionship and was a subject of a study recently around a university where 1,000 students were surveyed on their use of Replica. And the mental health kind of considerations around using an AI for companionship were studied. And the results were fairly mind-blowing. So I encourage you to go look that study up if you can. And feel free to hit me up and I can hit you with the link for the study. I'm kind of basing the way that use cases of AI around what EDUCAUSE, which is the Higher Education IT Consortium, they kind of try to frame it in 4 different ways. You kind of use it for dreaming, so it helps you think. You kind of use it for drudgery to lighten your load. Design, especially for instructors, building your content, right? And then development, advancing your work, helping you think about how to get your work done. So use case 1, simple one, you use AI tools instead of Google search. We recently had a DDoS attack here fairly, in the last month or so. And when the emails came out to you, of course, you could go out to Google and search what a DDoS attack is. And, it would give you a bunch of links that would try and explain what DDoS is. But a lot of these tools now can, the AI tools that is, if you put that question in, you'll get a fairly good answer. So let me try that one, right? Let me go to ChatGPT 4 here. And this is the paid version of ChatGPT. If I go here, the unpaid version is 3.5, but I'm not a peasant. I'm just kidding. The GPT-4 part of it is actually fairly powerful. So I'm going to experiment with that here. What is a DDoS attack? And GPT tries to answer back on a word, phrase by phrase basis. It tries to give you answers as it is thinking, whereas a couple of the other tools kind of just plop the entire text of the answer down. I like the way that this one interacts with me. A fairly short answer, it tries and tells you what's going on. But if I know more about it, if I know more about the attack, but I want to know more about how the attack is going on, I say, hey, but this seems to be targeting our DNS servers. And then it explains to you, what exactly an attack on the DNS servers looks like and what the steps could be, right? Look at that. It's even going beyond that and saying, here are some steps to mitigate it. And if you look at some of the answers, it actually then says what we did at OIT to mitigate the attack that was going on. Very interesting. It also contextualizes it very well. Now, it knows me because I've been kind of interacting with it on a long time basis. And so it knows that I'm going to understand certain words and tries to make sure that it is conversing to me in that context. Explain the Socratic method to me. That's a simple enough one. Explain. And it's interesting because like I said, I've been doing this presentation quite often. And this question is a fairly regular one that I put to it. I've never got the same answer back, ever. It starts off, sometimes in a very whimsical way, but sometimes now, for example, it's doing it in a very bullet point fashion. It goes to what Mimi says, which is, AI detection is kind of hard. And especially when it fluctuates between answers to the same prompt, essentially. But say, I am whimsical, so I say, explain the above in the style of Bill from Bill and Ted. And it does so, right? I mean, this is one of the best ways that we can see how generative AI tools really contextualize and make sure that they answer you in the form that you want it answered. Instead of writing Bill from Bill and Ted, I could say that I'm a 15-year-old and explain all of this to me in a form of a 15-year-old and understand. Or I could say that I'm from Senegal and this is how I'm going to understand it. So it tries to contextualize based on its knowledge base. Explain complex ideas. Explain the Monty Hall problem to me. That is a statistical problem that came from the Let's Make a Deal show, right? But I'm from India. I've never been here in the United States back when Let's Make a Deal was such a big deal. So what if I don't know about the show? And so it'll try and explain to you, okay, in the context of the fact that you don't know anything about the show, here's what the problem looks like. Simple things like I'm an average voter in South Carolina, explain why manufacturing industries are important. Or like my son just now, if he's not, interested in college, but I still want to explain to him why differential equations are important in life. These kinds of tools are awesome to figure that out. I'm going to actually put that question in and see how it deals with that one. And I'm going to go to Gemini, which is Google's version of an AI tool, generative AI tool. And this I'm just going to write, my son is 14, how to explain why differential equations are important. Gemini, this is Gemini Advanced, which is the paid version of Gemini. Like I mentioned, my credit card statement is terrible right now. There's at least 6 AI tools that I pay for on a monthly basis. Yes, this is bad. My wife does not know this. So explains fairly well, and it tries to make sure that it's contextualizing. It start with change in rates, connect rates to equations, show real world applications, keep it engaging. What a great last point, right? Especially when we're talking to 14-year-olds. Get ideas on almost any topic. I've been here a CIO now for about 14 months, and if Lauren suddenly decides to ask me, George, what have you done lately? And I've been dealing with day-to-day stuff so much that I'm not keeping a log of what I've done lately. So I go and ask, hey, what would a CIO have done lately? And I did this, by the way, a couple of times. And man, it tells me stuff that I've done, which there's no way would know why, because most CIOs kind of do the same thing, right? And so then I can say, oh, yeah, I did do that thing. Let me write that down in a more, a complete fashion. So I'm almost never starting any of my projects, my writing projects, from a blank slate. I started with a prompt from one of the generative AI tools, and then I use that prompt to build out exactly what I'm trying to say. I used that last one fairly recently because I'm trying to advocate for a IT trainer here. So let me put that in there in a tool called Tome. Tome is a slide deck, and I already tried that once before, but let me show it to you how it works. Generate a presentation. What's your presentation about? I'm a CIO at a community college. I'll be presenting to our cabinet about the need to hire an IT trainer on our staff. Put together a slide deck for me with appropriate icons and images for pushing this case. Also put in some numbers about salary. And I say generate outline. It puts together about 5 or 6 different outlines, but you can choose one and then say, okay, that looks good. Generate a presentation. And it starts creating a slide deck. Now, really all these generative tools, they don't know much about how humans consume presentations yet, right? So it's going to start with very dense, slide decks, which all of us know it's a recipe for disaster, especially when you're talking to our cabinet. Sorry, Larry. But in general, what you want to try and do is make sure that you take that as a starting point and then work forward. But let's look at what it did, right? So first, and it's got not a blind person, but a person with closed eyes working the computer. And look at those hands. See how generative AI works with those hands? Not very cool, right? That's a great tell for an artificially generated image. But let's look at the first one. Introduction, need to hire an IT trainer. Would I take this and present this straight in front of cabinet? Probably not. What I'm going to do is say, okay, I like the structure and I like some of the words, but I'm going to work my own style and my own voice into this. It actually takes the time for going out and saying benefits, the challenges that are there right now, and what the role would be. And look at that, it actually went out and pulled in entry, mid, and senior level salaries from the internet. Puts in a good-looking chart. Everybody likes charts, so put that in there. You might not use this chart, but now suddenly the idea of a chart is introduced into your brain, and so you start looking for a good enough chart to put in there. Put in the proposed budget, and there's a start for you. So you're not starting from a blank slate. You're starting from something that is already there. Get ideas on almost any topic on your personal life. By the way, this is awesome. We recently just planned an entire trip to Costa Rica by me essentially putting that into Google Gemini and saying, hey, I want to go to Costa Rica. Here's what my family size looks like. We like to hike. I don't mind driving. And, we're going for 7 days. And boom, it just put out a 7-day itinerary. I can say, I don't like day 6 too much because that's too much hiking. And it'll change that out and say, I want to do something else there. My son actually used that second prompt recently, saying that he wanted to do a 5K. And so then it asks questions like, okay, are you on the couch? Okay, then, where do we start from there as far as getting to a 5K? Designing. Imagine if somebody came into this college right before affirmation and said, that they've been tasked with the idea of being in charge of reaffirmation from SAC-COC. Well, they can go to a ChatGPT like 2 and say, hey, what's my first step? And ChatGPT will direct them to the SAC-COC website, read the SAC-COC website, the handbook, and say, here are your first steps. That's better than having an onboarding document. I don't know about you. That feels really cool. You can also now in ChatGPT's got a feature, and here I'm going to go back there. It's got a feature called Create a GPT. And GPTs are essentially almost like assistants, and you can see various versions of assistants created by folks all around the place. But I'm going to create one. And in this case, it's going to run me through what's called a wizard. And I'm going to put in these words. I'm a CIO at a community college. I need an assistant for helping with creating documents, memos, emails, etc. And it starts making what's called a GPT assistant for me. That's fine. I don't know why it needs to create a profile picture, by the way, but hey, it makes me feel good, so why not, right? Oh, and one of the things about GPT assistants, you can actually share these with other folks inside your college or those who have paid versions of ChatGPT. So you can both kind of relate to the same assistant. Do you like it? Yeah, why not? Yeah. Mostly contracts, memos to cabinet. What else can I do? Emails to the college regarding incidents, etc. So when that DDoS attack happened about a month ago, guess how I made that email up to send it to y'all? I used ChatGPT and said, here's what happened. I'd like you to compose an email saying that here's what happened and how we're dealing with it. And put in all the requisite words about, here's the mitigation strategies we're doing. And it put back an email. I worked with that email, and that's what we sent to you finally. And frankly, that's one of the fastest ways to get communication done nowadays, because writing an email takes real thought when we're putting out something like that as far as an incident is concerned. And now this makes it a lot more easier, so that I'm actually using my brain cycles in the right way, as opposed to writing it from scratch. Would you like the system to use these? No, not really. And it creates one. So the preview is on the right. So here I can say, make me an email to send to the college about DDoS, ongoing DDoS attack. Seems familiar? And then when we actually solve it, I say, hey, this is what we use to solve it. Make me an email to send out the all clear. And then it puts out the all clear there. Now, it is not going to send the email for you, right? I mean, you still have to do all that work yourself, but this is a great start. Design any kind of image you can think of. And I put this one in: educator in a South Carolina setting, working at a keyboard near a window that looks out onto the low country of South Carolina. And I used a software called Ideogram, but really there's quite a lot of tools out there that can help you do this. In this case, Ideogram generated 4 different images. I didn't specify the gender of the educator. It just decided to do women for all 4 of them. Don't look closely at the fingers. Fingers are always weird. But in general, a very good first step. Distill meeting transcripts and other long documents. This is one of the best use cases of tools like ChatGPT, by the way. That financial aid document, 75-page document that comes out and says, here are all the changes to financial aid. Well, all Amy has to do is chunk that right into Claude or ChatGPT and say, give me the high points. And it gives you the 15 high points that are there in those documents. And really, that's all you need to start off. But then if you want to continually read on into it, you can query more about it and say, hey, point number 15 talks about this. Tell me more about that. And it'll go back into the document and give you a much better summary. I really like the idea of Zoom meeting transcripts. For example, this meeting is getting recorded right now. The transcript can be put into into something like a ChatGPT or a Claude. And then you can say, hey, where's my name mentioned in there? Because I want to know if in a meeting like this, they assign me any to-do items. And it does a great job of telling you that. Be an armchair data scientist. One of the best ways to use this is especially for non-sensitive data, and where you can use things like, okay, here's survey data about something, upload that Excel file into any one of Claude or ChatGPT, and it will tell you here's what the numbers look like as far as the surveys. Far less analysis needed from your side. Would you take that analysis though and go with it? No, what you would do is go back into that CSV, spot check some of that and say, hey, does this look right or not? For the sake of time, I'm not going to run through a analysis right now, but if we do have time, I'll jump into that later. So once again, here's a slide deck with all the names of all the various tools where you can test them. We'll try and send out the slide. I believe we're going to try and send this out, Rachel, at some point, and you can click through them to actually find out all these tools. There's a video over here in the slide deck. It's about how Moderna actually has adopted a lot of the OpenAI tools within their entire organization, and especially the concept of sharing all those GPT assistants around their company. I liked one of them where basically they used the legal assistant to say, hey, when we're doing legal work around any of our clinical trials, how can we write this down in a more standardized fashion? And it basically takes over the idea of legal writing for a company like that. Oops, sorry. This is one of the books that I mentioned there in the chat. It's Co-Intelligence by Ethan Malik. He's a great follow on LinkedIn or even on a Substack. I would highly recommend it if you are an educator looking to understand more about generative AI tools. And that's it. Any questions? I'm open for that.
Oh, thank you, George. Yes, we did have a couple of questions come in through the Q&A. The first one is a question from Pam. Any possibility to have access to use Fathom AI Note Taker for those of us that take meeting minutes?
I think that's essentially up to you and your budget line at that point. Some of these tools, though, as we look at the terms and conditions, OIT may have to say no, depending on what they do with the data. But at least for experimentation, I'd say that it's you can start off with it and then say, okay, I want to do a license of it, and you can talk with OIT and procurement about that.
Wonderful, thank you. And then 2 questions really centered around when you were using ChatGPT-4. Amber asked first, how do you know that the information/response is accurate?
And it depends upon the kind of question you're asking. If you're asking something that's a lot more closed-ended, what's the capital of, I don't know, Turkey or something like that, it's a lot more easier to find out whether that response is accurate. If you're asking it to kind of distill that 75-page document into 15 points, well, it really is up to you to figure that out, whether that's accurate. And one of the ways that I've seen people do that is to spot check out of the 15, go up to 0.4 and see whether this actually matches up with that 75-page document. But you can also ask it for citations. Hey, where did you get 0.4 from? Which page is it from? And it'll point to the page and say, this is where I got it from, and here's how I distilled it. But really, in the end, the way that you want to work with these tools is to verify. Almost never should you have to trust it.
And that was Amber's follow-up question too. Do you always trust
No.
ChatGPT for
I mean, think about it. When I tried to do that email, I didn't take I'm sending that email out to 1,400 people. There's no way I'm sending something out, without actually fact checking it. One way I've heard of these kinds of tools is to consider tools like ChatGPT, for example, as your 14-year-old nephew who's your intern. He's a bright kid. He knows, he's got a ton of knowledge in his head, but he's also a little bit of a fool. in that he'll do whatever the heck he wants without you actually guiding it. So if you're taking his help, yes, take it, but always cross-check it and make sure that it's correct before actually pushing it.
Great. And I haven't seen any other questions come into the Q&A so far, George.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much, George, for sharing that. I know there's some thank yous coming in through the chat. This is an evolving topic, and we have a lot to think about, a lot of tools to explore and look through as a result of our presenters today. So we just want to thank each of our presenters who were with us today: Dr. Larry Miller, Mimi Hume, Michelle Rubino, Rachel Peterson, Rebecca Roth, and George Abraham, for taking time out of their days to share these topics with us and to get that conversation going and kind of propel us forward as this continues to evolve. Just a quick invitation: if you have AI tools, AI experiences that you would like to share, whether that's in a short little tidbit episode or in some kind of other professional development offering, or there are things that you are looking for people to speak on and to learn more about, please share those with us. Tanya, would you put the CPE Gmail in the chat? You could just reach out to our CPE Gmail, or again, feel free to contact me or Tanya with those questions, with those ideas. We really welcome all of that as we seek to try to curate the professional development and meet the needs of our faculty and staff here at CPE. And we're incredibly grateful for those who spent time with us today. I loved seeing the things that you were all sharing in the chat as well. That's, again, one of the wonderful things about doing a webinar like this, is the ability to just be able to share and learn from each other. And so what a wonderful thing we were able to do this afternoon. And CPE is inviting you to continue that conversation. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help, or what you would like to share with the community here at GTC, and we will work on making that happen. Just a quick reminder, as we close the meeting today, a quick survey will pop up. We would love if you would take a moment just to fill that out. It is anonymous unless you choose to share your information. But we would love any feedback from today's webinar, what you'd like to see in the future. We will take that. Any feedback you provide, we always use it. It's incredibly valuable to us. So that wraps up our webinar on understanding AI today. Thank you all for joining us, sticking with us. Again, a huge thank you to our presenters, and we hope that you have a great afternoon.